Welcome to the Authentic Living and Loving channel, where we feature stories about individuals that are living to the beat of their own drum, doing things a little bit out of the ordinary, living authentically, and inspiring others to do the same. My name is Dr. Jordan Alexander, and today it is an honor and a privilege to introduce Phuong Lara Pham, a trailblazer in mental health advocacy and business development. Currently, Lara serves as a Vietnam country lead at Intellect, Asia's largest and fastest growing mental health tech company. She's been instrumental in driving Intellect's presence and impact in Vietnam, and her work supports over 3 million members globally. Lara's career is a dynamic blend of technology, human resources, and well-being. She's spearheaded digital HR transformations at Unilever and co-founded the Happiness Project, which supported nearly 700 clients and built a mental health advocacy community of over 5,000 members. She's also led initiatives with major organizations like Angel Hack and One Mount, bringing innovative partnerships to life. Now at Intellect, Lara's leading the charge in transforming how Vietnam approaches mental health care. And her mission isn't just professional, it's personal. She's dedicated to merge technology with compassion and is shaping a brighter, healthier future for individuals and organizations alike. Please join me in welcoming the incredible and inspiring Lara Pham. Welcome, Lara.
Thank you so much, Jordan, for having me here. I hope that we can have an incredible conversation today. Just hearing you, just sharing a little bit about my background, make me realize that I have come quite a long journey. And I just hope that, my story would help to bring even just a little bit of inspirations or motivation for the people out there who, also have a dream to follow.
That's great, Laura. It's interesting, isn't it? Because we move forward in life. Everybody's like, oh, what's your next step? What's your next step? And we don't get a chance very often to go back and look through, and so a bio to introduce you. It's like, yeah, girl, you've been actually doing some stuff.
Yeah, I did. Like just listening to the whole thing, I was like, wow. It's been more than 10 years. So, and there was a lot of milestone. And, I did, just I would say that, I would pat myself, I would, give myself a pat on the back.
Nice. That's so good. I'm so glad because it is a pretty amazing journey, really. And I think we forget sometimes some of those stumbling blocks that get us to these places. And it's so important for people who are going through those stumbling blocks to actually see, yeah, don't worry about it. You're going to have a lot more stumbling blocks, and here we go. We're going
Yeah.
to get through it, right?
Mm, you know,
So, Lara, I'd love to start with your personal journey in Vietnam and just sort of give the viewers a little bit more of an understanding of what growing up in Vietnam was like for you and how it shaped your views on leadership, on mental health, and innovation.
um, okay, so that's another long story. I'm trying to make it short. So I was born to a family of four. I also have an older brother, and then, we just like any, other Asian family, right? All of us are expected to be really, like to have good grades in schools and everything. There's one thing that I think that's kind of like stood out, at least, for my family context, is that, usually, woman is not, encouraged to have a really like successful career. And the best goal, even though that I know that it come from, the best intentions of the people who love me. So we, us as a girl, right, I expected to, study, just go to school and then go into university, graduate, trying to find a stable career and then settle down and get married. But even when I was small, I always, wondered, if things could be different. Even though that, when I was small, it was really, nothing was really certain. And I didn't really have a role, like a female role model in my family, who has like a successful career. But I always, wonder what is out there. What is the alternative way to live my life? What if I can do really, like big, great thing? Um, so, but these, just remain, just questions, right? But I guess, at the moment, I can say that, I'm trying you know, to just follow my heart. And I don't, put too much of, I pressures on becoming successful or not. But at the moment, what I'm really focused on is, uh, just I want to push for the possibility. I want just to push the limits and see if I try really hard what I can become, right? So I guess that is one of the main principle in my in my life right now. Back a little bit. So I just like any other students, I went into university. When I went into and career orientation was not really a thing in Vietnam. So I major in English, like linguistics, English translation and interpretations. And the funny thing is, I didn't really know like the professions that I was being trained for the moment after I got into the I got into the university, because I just thought simply that I'm pretty good at English, so maybe I should go major in English. I didn't even know that I would become an interpreter and translator. uh
Mm.
but yeah, it's just yeah, it's quite funny. But and also like any other, like a lot of other young people in Vietnam as well, when we actually enter our career, we do something completely different. And I have a really, I would say, interesting like career path. So I changed through a lot of like companies, and I changed my profession 3 times, from human resource to project management to now business development. And was it hard? I would say that it was hard. Like changing through, different work, and having to learn, a lot of new things whenever, I challenge myself with a new role. But I would say that, I wouldn't regret a thing, because it's made me the person I am today. I have a really, I would say, a dynamic and diverse set of skills that actually, support me in the work that I'm doing today. And it satisfied my curiosity, uh, because when you can see that even when I was a kid, I already curious, what is out there, what if um, maybe we can do something different, we can do something differently, we can be out there and just to try it out, right? Yeah, so I guess that's a little bit of like my story. Mental health, for mental health is like it's a whole other journey. But long story short, I the story started when I myself had some problem with my mental health. And from there I realized that the awareness, the mental health awareness in Vietnam is not very good. uh, a lot of people are not, including myself, for a really long time, couldn't really identify, the problem that we are having. And the moment I can pinpoint, I can identify my issues, I know where to get help. And from there, I get better. And I think that, everyone also deserve, you know, an opportunity, and deserve all of the support that they need to get them back on their feet. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no, that's awesome. That's really good. And so, despite having no role models, really, and also that, you know, a woman's place is in the kitchen or as a mother or whatever. Like I had that as well when I was growing up. You know, my father said, "Why do I want to go to university? Because I'm going to get married and have children." And it's really interesting because as much as you can still follow your curiosity, and you did, there's still that hangover, I think, for me at least, always that it's always there, even though you're not maybe being guided by it. everyone, I think at the end of the, it's not just Asian kids that want to impress their parents, right? Like we always
Yeah.
talk about, Asian moms and Asian, especially when it comes to relationships. But I think every kid just wants to impress their parents. Would you
Yeah, I
agree?
guess it's yeah, I guess it's just a very natural thing to be because like instinctively we want to be loved, right? And um, at least from the way that I can see, myself growing up and others growing up as well. We always say that, like love should be given unconditionally, but like life is not ideal. And in a lot of time, we actually feel like, love is conditional and we have to earn it through proving ourselves in a way. Mm.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or false, but it's certainly everything like. I talk to more people that believe that, including myself, than not. Like sometimes I've had these conversations with my mom about, she said, I don't know why you were so driven, when we were happy to have you. And yet in my mind, I was, I'm proving it to them or I'm trying to achieve so that they're going to be proud of me. But then when you actually ask them, they're like, yeah, just relax, girl. You don't have to do all this stuff, so it's
Yeah.
really interesting, that reality.
It's really interesting that you mentioned that because we definitely, to me, one of my, I would say that one of my biggest driver, even though that I have all of these big, beautiful dream and ambitions, but on a daily basis, there's this, very consistent drive, uh, of, gaining the validations from others, gaining like the approval from others. Um, and it's so hard to shake it off even when we are able to identify it. And personally for myself, I have come to know that it is actually something that is holding me back in life. Yes, but I guess that is a result of growing up and then living into especially for millennial. I can definitely see within myself and among my peers, this is a really big um like motivator for us. It's we are different from the previous generations, right? The previous generation, like my parents generation, is all about making ends meet. So anything that relating to like proving ourselves, understanding who we are is such a privilege. It's like it's a luxury. But when it's come to us, when we don't really have any like challenges or issues, um we don't have to to think about how to put food on the table, then something that like keep going back to us is like who we are in this world, how we can be approved, how we can like assert ourselves in the in this society, how to how to get people to approve of us, to love us, to like us. And I see this everywhere, right? So I would not say that I'm any any special. I also see that that is something a lot of people around me are also having. But I guess something that I feel lucky is that like through my journey into psychology and mental health, somehow it's helped me a lot in improving my self-aware, improving my self-awareness. And from there I can identify this as like I don't like this is also one of my newest developments, I would say. Like I accept this part as a part of me, but and I try not to uh evil eye like just like think that there is something that is bad for me. I should not be needing external validations. I definitely go through a time where I trying to like discard it, I trying to ignore it, and I trying to to jank it out of my system. But I think it doesn't work like that. A lot of the, like a really important progress, a really important part of the healing and growing process is about, accepting myself as well. So I'm trying to, very slowly, accepting that this is also, a part of me. And how I can be friends with it, how I can actually leverage it to live up like a more happy, like a happier life, a more fulfilling life, instead of like trying to push it away.
It's that book, The Courage to be Disliked, almost, like it's how it's learning that process of what other people think about you is none of your business, really. But I love the way that you sort of went there in the millennial sense, because you're right. I mean, the your parents and the generations, that were totally focused on making ends meet. It's the low end of the Maslow's hierarchy, right? If you have no food and shelter, it's really hard to go like, well, who and how are you being, when you're trying to put meat on the, like food on the table. Um, and it's funny how the millennials are, from a coaching background, um, millennials are willing to go there more readily sometimes than the older generations. Like it's almost like it's a language or an expectation that is more accessible than it is sometimes for older generations, which are, like never let them see you cry, and don't go down that, do it yourself. You don't need anybody's help, and there's a real sort of edgy part of that. In your experience with Intellect and the companies that you've been dealing with, is there that kind of difference amongst generations? Like, do you notice that different parts of, that diversity in age is creating needs for different either products or different approaches, or how does that age thing kind of play out in the mental health provider space?
Hmm. I think that is actually, not particular to intellect itself, but when if we talk about, the mental health awareness, it definitely, is very different in different age group, different, generations. And I think that this is really interesting. And we are living in a really interesting time where, like mental health awareness is, is improving, but it's just, it's going in, it's developing and improving in a way that, I myself, didn't really, like foresee or expect it as well. In my personal experience, yes, it's happened. If I when I talk to, different companies, and when, very often I talk to, the C-level, right? Like the leadership. Um, and, yeah, I can definitely, see the stigma is there. Like like they are very, and some of them are very skeptical about this whole thing.
Mm.
Because of this, like notion about this belief, like, okay, we didn't really have a lot of mental health issues back in the day, and we should grind it through, right? We should push it through. And what's wrong with what's wrong with you young people? Why do
Yeah.
you have, like everyone, every like one I can feel like, like half of the people I meet is having, struggling with depression or anxiety or something. What is happening? So that is really interesting. And from my perspective, it's really interesting to, see from their perspective as well. Because, for a really long time, because, I got into psychologies and, become a mental health advocate. I should take for granted the fact that, it's not, like, and in my circle, I have met a lot of people where they are very, like open-minded about this thing, and they really, want to help people, and they want to, understand everyone, inner struggles. But then, and when I go into, because now I work in business development, right? So I go into the business sense, into like the business context, and I am, got challenged by all of the people who like don't really get it. So it's really interesting. I would say I definitely, I see that. But what I really appreciate is, even, like from the leader from the previous generation, they are becoming more like they are becoming more open. And, the least that they are doing, like what they are doing, at the moment, it's just becoming curious about it.
Mm.
Yeah. I remember, one meetings that I went to. So instead of, like introducing about products and everything, it became a conversation about mental health as a whole. Yeah. And she really, trying to understand what is this thing? What is mental health? So why are people having it? If I, take care of my employee mental health, does it really help with, the company and everything? So it's not about, like the tools or, the solutions, but this is an opportunity for me, to just share my perspective and my experience, about mental health. And I share with her, very honestly about my own struggle with mental health and how, just simply being able to call out that I was, actually in fact having like a struggling with depressions helped me so much in my own um like healing journeys and like getting better process. And even though that, it's still gonna be like a long way until they can, like completely accept it as a part of the business. But I think that there's some shift there. Like I already, like noticed that okay, they understand it a little bit better. And now they know that, like where to look for, I hope that, like maybe, they see an employee, one of the employee, if he or she is struggling with mental health, then the issue is not would not be disregarded like before, but actually would be they would be taken care of like they deserve to be. So yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
think.
it's interesting that you know, there's this whole other thing going on, I guess, from a social change perspective around mental health. And we're becoming a lot more aware as a global society about individual needs and diversity and I guess the contributions that everyone can make if they're fully able to make them and that creating those workplaces where people feel like they can, bring their whole messy selves because I know a lot of perfectionists out there, but I don't know anyone who's perfect. Like so we're all messy and we bring that with us. And it's funny, well, you were saying about some of the C-suite people that you're talking to, and it's just like it's so hard to digest in some ways. It's like I wanted to say, Lara, you must be talking to my mother because she's like, oh, why do people need coaches? They should just be, figuring that out, on their own. We didn't have, oh, they can't figure it out on, like there's something wrong with them. And I'm like, Mom, the coaching industry is growing and it's huge. And then mental health, it's like, oh, everybody's got this and every. But if we think about, it's not that there weren't those mental health issues growing up. They were there. It's just we weren't talking about them. And we certainly weren't finding solutions like you're providing with organizations now. That just wasn't a thing. You just suffered in silence. And so the fact that you're actually promoting social change, I guess, it's almost part of the business development cycle getting people attuned to,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Educating.
Yeah, I guess that is something that I love about this whole thing. Because by developing the business itself, and we know about business, right? We are supposed to like bring in the revenue and like how to maximize the profit and everything. But like throughout this journey and throughout this process, I am able to do something that I always wanted to do, which is to talk about it. And I'm talking to the people who can really make a change in the organization that they are, that they're having, right? And I think that this is absolutely crucial, and it is also, like part of the reason why I'm going into, the specific role. Um, I used to have, so I like you mentioned in the beginning, me and some of my friends, who are, they graduated from like a master of psychology, master of mental health, and they just got in and they are, practicing. We got together and we had, the small, I would, like the small mental health project. So what we really want to do is just to provide like science-backed mental health knowledge, and also, like free counseling and free support for the people in need, but don't really have the resource, to get, like normal support. And, like a few years ago, like the stigma is really strong as well. So, if I ask someone to go into the psychiatry office, that would be like a big no-no. So this is like the project that is, like help to normalize like mental health care in Hanoi. So Hanoi is where I'm from. And we did that. So we did that for like a little bit more than a year. And our community within a very, like short amount of time grew to like about 5,000 people. And we have, like one-on-one, like face-to-face counseling for like more than 700 young people.
That's
So,
incredible.
just
Like
yeah,
that is something to be so proud of, Lara. Like really. I mean, that's a grassroots driven from, you know, a relatively young from where I'm sitting, right? You
yeah.
know, women that are giving back and really changing the game. Like that's pretty amazing. I mean, what did that doing that happiness project teach you about mental health needs in the community?
That was incredible because I wouldn't say that, we didn't do a lot of communications. We didn't know anything about marketing. We just simply, just put the project there and, get the words out like, hey, we have something that, can help you here. If you have the needs, if you feel like you want to get some help, just come to us. And so, it's just like how the project developed it completely, because of word of mouth. Right. And, I think that, yes, I am very proud what we are able to, to achieve. But I think, the big part of it is, I can see, how this is something that very much needed, for the Vietnamese people. But as we already know, right, like most people are still, like they don't know about this. The people who are having some mental health disorder or issues are still having, a lot of challenges in getting the help that they need. But I got into, like it really, like fueled my motivation and my calling in
Mm.
pursuing, something professionally in this, in this area, in this I wouldn't say industry because it wasn't like big enough to be an industry, but in this mental health and psychology area, right? So that lead so but through running, through operating through that project, what I also, realize that, I still lack a lot of like professional and business skill to turn it into something that is sustainable, right? We
Mm.
could stay that way. We could be, like a non-profit organization, like a small project. But I would say that, it would not really help to solve like the core of the problem that I'm seeing. So, and because, like all of the members have different direction as well. So after 1 year and a half, we decided to close it down. And then, I venture in a really, I would say that, I would say that, the happiness project is one of the milestones that completely changed the course of my life afterwards. Because, after that, I got more serious in pursuing an opportunity in this area. And, I major in, I found a psychology major that have classes in the evening, and I enrolled myself in. Yeah.
Amazing.
I study, so yeah, so I major in psychology for a year, and then I actually dropped out. Yeah. And the reason, for me why I dropped out, even though, I was really sure that I want to work in mental health. I want to work in the mental health industry, is that I was like, and there was just this moment when I was in the class, I was sitting in the class, and together I have around 70 other classmates. And then this question that just came to me that, okay, so in the future, we're going to have 70 counselor, right? We're going to have, like Vietnam or Hanoi
Yep, yep.
particularly, going to like 70 more psychologists. And I know that, because mental health and psychology is blowing up at that time. A lot of people also, got themselves in psychology as well. Part of the reason because they want to heal themselves, they want to help themselves. And another reason is that they really like this job, right?
Mm.
But I have one question, which is, so who are going to like help all of these people? Because I know that, usually counselor and psychologists, they don't want to do the business part.
Yeah.
It's just
It's
confusing. So
it's
it's
very
very
it's very
different.
entrepreneurial. It's very entrepreneurial of you. And I think there's something, I mean, there's an element of, your vision and your mission and your business hat that's so key in spreading this, the mental health solutions, that I can see how if you were a counselor or doing one-on-one work, not that there's nothing, like, I mean, that's amazing, what the work that people do. And because of your skills, because of your background in HR, because you've had the experiences that you have in tech, because you're out there now in the BD field as well, business development field, it's like you're geared and poised for doing the one to many, like the one to one versus the one to many. And it's like, it just seems to have a better fit. And it's certainly,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
sorry.
certainly, it's certainly, I was kind of trying to wrap in your personal mission as well into this, because you've got all these different skills to, the psych counseling side of things. And this is really deeply personal to you as well.
Mm. It was a very revealing moment for me as well. Because, for the longest time, I think that, for most of my career, I always feel lost. And I have, this urge and this, you know, I just want to find a place that I feel belong. And, when it's come to career and it's come to job, something that really important to me is the sense of purpose, right? I want to work for an organization. I want to work for a cause that
Mm.
actually, like helping everyone, not just a job that helped me to make ends meet. So Steve Jobs always, there's this famous, speech by Steve Jobs, right, about connecting the dots. And when I finally arrive at where I am right now, I really feel like all the dots are connected. Even though that before that it was so random. I try so many things. I try so many different like working environment. I try, from big corporate, one of the biggest corporates in Vietnam, to small startup with 4 people, from localizations and translation industry to, FMCG to tech. And, I always, even though that, I have grown, I have learned so much in those jobs, there's still something that is still missing. And that is, the sense of purpose. I want, to work for, like a product or the service that is aligned with my personal driver, aligned with my personal passions. And that is, mental health. And I, exactly the moment where I know that, okay, I'm going to develop myself, like to develop my business skill and go into the commercial side of things because before I usually work in back office, supporting functions, right? Now I'm going to the front line. And that was a big decision. That was, really scary.
Why
Because I
did you
never,
go there?
seen,
Why
I'm
did
sorry.
why did you choose to do that? Like, so you were sort of behind the scenes and then you chose to go be seen, basically.
Yeah.
What
It
changed
is
for
not,
you?
yeah. That is, I think that that is mostly to support my missions because I know that, in order to, I want to help, the whole industry grow, like the mental health industry grow, not just, one particular, um, like business or anything. Um, and I can see that, at the time, because the mental health scenes in Vietnam, the mental health business in Vietnam are quite fragmented. They're
Mm,
very fragmented and it's more like B2C. Most of the business are like more like B2C. At least that's what I observed back in the day, right?
yeah.
So now if I want to really bring an impact into that, I really need to go into the front and learn, about business and learn how about scaling and growing and like just maximizing this impact to as many people as possible. And that's a way that I feel like most motivated to pursue after. um I mean, this is just personally for me, right? I mean, like all of the other counselors and psychologists, I think that they are doing amazing job, helping at the personal level. But with my skill sets and what, like with the vision, even though, back in the day, I think that, and that is absolutely ridiculous. I want to aim for impact. I want to aim for, like mass impact, where I can do something that can help people, like as many people as I want to access, mental health care, quality mental health care. Right. So that leading to, why I'm, leading, why, I'm having my career role where, I'm working with different business and corporations in integrating the well-being and mental health care into the benefit and into the culture as well. Because we are trying to build a well-being culture, not just, it's not just another benefit to attract, talents, right? It is actually to culture because we believe that, by helping employees and the community members to be mentally healthy, that actually, going all full circle and helping, that own organization and business to grow exponentially as well.
Well, happy employees are going to always affect the bottom line, aren't they? I mean, if you need to put a profitable spin on it, you'd literally, and I intentionally use the word crazy, you'd be crazy not to invest in mental health. Like literally, like I'm sure that that's not politically correct to say, but the metrics are there and it's not only the right thing to do, it's an important thing to do, and you've got that that personal mission that you have that is to provide as that access to as many people in Vietnam as you can. And it sounds like what was curiosity in your early years, in your career years, flipped into a heck of a lot of courage as you go from back to front line. And I am curious to ask how easy is it for you to bring your personal journey into these conversations? Your personal mental health journey.
Mm, it's just a conversation to my clients, to the businesses. I think it feels pretty natural. Even though, I try to do it intentionally as well. Because I also, try not to be oversharing all the time. But it just comes naturally, right? I have a lot of convictions in what I'm doing at the moment. I have a lot of confidence because I myself is, someone who benefits from it, right? I have been, like going to therapy for ages, like for so many years. And then, later on, I spend more time, with coaching as well. And I can definitely see, like the level of resilience that I have gained and just, like my emotion regulation skill have been, it's never been better, like right now as well. And there's some moment when I think back, I am also shocked and very surprised at how, like how much more mentally, healthy I've been and so much more resilience. I think that is so important. like so much more resilient than I used to be before. If this one incident, let's say, if that one incident happened to me like a few years back, it would affect me, for such a long time. And I would be, very like emotionally affected by it. But now I only, it take me only a day, like a day to get over it and move on with my life
Yeah.
and
Yes.
focus on doing what I can control and focus on, what are all of the other better things that are still waiting for me to do. And this incredible shift, just imagine, if all of the employees and all of the, members in the organization, if they have that shift if they have that mindset, like how powerful a business or an organization, could become if, if they can really bring that shift and that, that changes to every single one. And because, I am the one who actually, experiences, right? So, it just, I can share it all very authentically and I share it honestly.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I really think that, like we cannot really fool anyone. If we are lying, people can see it, especially when it's come to personal story like this, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, I know that we may tell the story from my heart, and this is my own story.
Mm.
And I think that is always the biggest one of the, my favorite part in every conversations that I usually have with my partner or my clients. I have my own story in there. And I can see, from, the way from their look, from their eyes, that they actually believe the story and they are, somewhat inspired by it. And they think that is true and they can relate it to their own story and their own journey as well. So to me, regardless of if I would win the deal or not, as a matter of fact, I faced a lot of rejections and failure during the
With
journey.
resilience, with greater
Yeah,
resilience now.
it's definitely, a path that, like require a lot of resilience. But I consider that already a small win. It's a small win for me to know for people to know about the story, about for people to know that mental health is important. They should take care of their own mental health as well. And support is possible, help is possible, and help is out there. They should need to ask and they just need to find a way to reach out to it. But change is possible and healing is possible, getting better is possible, and becoming a and getting becoming happy is possible. Mm.
So Lara, you're obviously following your dreams, and your mission is going to and already is impacting so many people, you know. What's your advice for other young professionals that are trying to follow their dreams, and they might be navigating, some setbacks, or maybe it's a lack of faith and trust that they can do it. What would
Mm.
what would you say to them?
Well, I would say that I've been through that exact journey so many times, like during my journey, right? I have no idea. I had no idea what I was doing. So usually I just I see a few options for my next step. I choose one, I just go for it. um and a lot of time I genuinely didn't really know what it would lead to. uh but I guess what have been helping me is I have a really strong intuition, right? I just know that staying is not an option anymore. I need to move forward. I need to pick something. I need to move forward, even though that it's not easy. I have to start all over. I need to adapt to like a new environment. I need to take on like really unfamiliar, really big challenges. But I just do it. Mm.
So,
And something that I think that I have a tattoo on my arm saying that trust your timing. And so I think that trust your own process is also really important as well. And even
yeah.
though that I was not aware, like along the way, I think that that was something that I just at some point, maybe blindly believe in myself. But, I believe in myself and I trust my process. And very luckily, fortunately, it lead to exactly, somewhere that I want to be. And, looking back, I am really grateful for the fact that I was not, I was not okay and I was not, like feeling fine with something that was really not fulfilling me. If it's, if was there something missing, then I will keep up my courage and keep up my curiosity until, I find, the next thing that I can go to, to go after what I want. So I guess, like trust the process, right? And just believe in yourself, even though that it sounds really cliche. It sounds really cliches. Another thing is, health and well-being is so important. And like how to say, we really have to take care of ourselves where we are. One example, let's say, like a few years back, right? I was having, a lot of like mental health issues. Um, so what I need to overcome, like the challenge I need to overcome at that time is to be, to get well and to deal with all of my emotional struggle. So at that time, if I keep pushing myself and I keep kind of like um how to say, like
Burnout,
okay,
or like you just keep going
yeah,
until you burn out, or
yeah. So yeah, I meant like at that time, if I keep pushing to kind of like step up in my career, for example, and like following all of the, okay, so like keep your eyes on the prize, you have to be disciplined, or you have to like push yourself forward, just kind of like whatever or like the self-help industry like
yeah,
was
yeah.
telling me, then it was not a good fit. But at that time, what I needed is to help myself to get better, to heal, to gain back my confidence and my self-esteem. That was the focus. Then I should focus on that. And when like the confidence is back, the self-esteem is back, I start to really like push it in terms of my career and all of the challenges. And that's when like all of the like self-help motivational quote makes sense. Yeah. So it's really, to meet ourselves where we are and to really, like respect and listen to our own body and our own mind as well. And, like not to be stressed out of, of the other pace and progress, because they're in different place. We are in a different place. And the most important place for us to be and focus on the next step is like right here and right now. So yeah, I hope that I could like clarify that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, for so many reasons. And I'm just really present to you trusting your intuition, not really having the set plan and doing it at a pace that gave yourself enough, almost downtime, almost enough breathing space in between to go, gosh, this ladder is against the wrong wall, as Stephen Covey would put it. Because as what I'm hearing you say is so many people they just keep climbing, keep climbing, keep climbing. They reach the top, they're making tons of money, they're woefully unhappy. They're no relationships with their families and kids and whatever, but they're at the top of the ladder and they're going, shit, it's against the wrong wall. I should be over there, literally. And so many people do that. And so I love that you're emphasizing right here, right now, focus on yourself. And so many people, I applaud people who reach out and do coaching, because they're willing to go there and they're willing to take the time to get that being right, like for them to tap into that intuition so you can see, yeah, I'm climbing this ladder. Some things are, I was in law school and I was, and this sounds like a similar situation to you in doing the psych degree. And it's like, yeah, I'm not really loving this. So could you imagine just keep climbing on that? Because I was already working for law firms. And it was like, how is this gonna, could you imagine? Oh my gosh, how that would have worked out. And how many people, they just keep soldiering on. They just keep going forward, even though they should have turned left a wee while back. So it's great advice.
Yeah.
It's really, really great advice. Um,
I think, like just looking back, I think that as I'm quite grateful of the way that, so for some reason, I just refuse to listen to like the rational advice at the time, right? Because, there was a moment, there should be, the time in my life when I'm offered really good job opportunities. And I mean, like the moment when I declined the job offer, I just looked straight into, like at the time, my colleague, like my future boss. And I just say that when I look at the job description, I don't feel any spark. So no, even though that, this is a job that so many people want. And I just simply, I'm sorry, I don't feel any spark. So no, sorry, I'm gonna go for another role. I'm going for another opportunities. Just looking back, I just think that, like I was, I think one, as people can say that it's naive and very unrealistic as well. But again, right, I'm grateful, even though that, like the job, and the role that I picked after that was not a good one. It's not the one that was really fitted as well. But it was very easy to just, pick the safe one, right?
mm,
Especially safe in the perspective and the perception of everyone else around you.
yes.
It was so easy, to pick that.
Yeah.
But, I was, it's just because of a belief that I want to work for something that I feel excited and passionate about, that I feel that it's meaningful. It lead me to another way. And now I'm here, which, at a place I'm very happy. I'm really happy. And I think that, this is going, the path and the journey that I'm going to pursue for a long time. Just because, at some point in my journey, I was a little bit naive. I was a little bit airhead. I was a little bit unrealistic. And for that, I think that I'm very, very grateful.
Absolutely. I mean, it just sounds like so many lessons, and you're making such an impact just by following your intuition and doing the next thing and believing in yourself. And it's so important that people do believe in themselves, because how else are you going to make this legacy of yours come true if you don't? You
No.
have to.
So the CEO of our company, right? He once, he answered one of his answer for one of the interview is that, like one of his secrets to the success is that he's a little bit delusional. And I think that is absolutely funny. But there's a lot of truth in that as well because for myself, um, to say right, um, there was a lot of times when I at the crossroad of like choosing, making your decisions. Like the only thing that can really help me to have the courage to take on the challenge is I usually joke, right? I only have the audacity. That's the only thing that I had. Um, like, before, I like when I applying for this role, for the current role that I'm having, I didn't have much sales experience. I've never worked in the mental health industry before. I didn't have like in terms of like experience. It didn't really match, right? It didn't
Yeah.
match. And like all I had is just yeah, exactly. It's audacity and just like, hey, maybe if the company has this opportunity, I want to, to try for that. And I did. And, here I am, in the company for more than 2 years already. And yeah, just thinking back, everything is, sometimes I feel like a dream. But it's real. I am here right now. And all of this happened is because yeah, I didn't really have a lot of to prove, right? It just in terms of, let's say expertise or skill. Like the only thing I have is the audacity. And and,
Audacity.
and they can I think that and the big part of why they chose me is because they can see, the passion is like how much I want to do this as well.
That's it. That's it. That's where I was like, it's not
Yeah.
just audacity, it's your passion too.
Yeah.
Because it's like that's the thing, you
Yeah.
know, like it's like you're driven and motivated by this legacy, leaving this legacy, helping as many people as you can in
Yeah.
Vietnam, supporting all this. And that stuff, that's what do they say? Do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Like it's literally when you do something that you're passionate about, that the hours just they flow by because you're doing that thing that you were, that inner calling, that purpose. And that's, what more could anyone
Mm.
ask for, really? So we're kind of coming towards the end of
I
our, sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
sorry. Sorry. Yeah, I think I just want to add, even when we follow our calling and follow our passions, we still have to work. And there's will be time, where still, we feel like, we want to give up. Right. But I think that, like the biggest pros of doing something that we love and doing something that, we're passionate for is that, we have such a we have such a strong driver to help us bounce back and be resilient. Because there's a million times I want to quit. There's a million times I want to give up because it is so hard. That is such a new industry. People are still, getting to know about it. There's so many seasons, right? But it helped me to always, go back to the reason why I started. And I know that it matters. This thing matters. And I know it help people. And then, that's just right then and there I say, okay, I'm go on and I will push through. And even though, it feel hard, even though, some days it still feel like working, working very long hours actually. Yeah, but then, it feel, it's just, we got something to rely on to push ourselves forward. And I think that's the most important thing. Yeah, back to
Excellent.
you. Sorry,
Excellent.
I
Yeah, no, no,
interrupted.
all good, Laura. So just as we're reaching the end here, if you were a business leader in Vietnam, what advice would you have for them if they're wanting to support mental health in their workplaces?
Mm. Um, it should be, I think they don't even particularly depends on where they are, on the, where they are, in terms of, the mental health awareness as well. But I would say that it doesn't have to be something that is really difficult or really complicated, right? Everything start with listening and curiosity. That's what I feel. Because we have so many differences among ourselves, right? So we have like generation differences. We have, the difference from people working different job or different level as well. But you don't really need to be like a psychologist to help people. You only need to, to be able to be willing to listen and to put ourselves in their shoe and to understand, what they are going through and relate them those stories to our own. Because who have never went through a dark time, who have never, went through a moment of self-doubt. And to think about, the moment when we just need a hug so much. We need like a hand, helping hand just offering to us so much. So think about, those moments and, see how we can. I believe, especially, for the business leaders, they are absolutely crucial in changing and destigmatizing mental health in the organizations. So just being able to listen, being willing to listen and, just learning more about this, just understanding more about, mental health in general. What are the things the daily life, what is the because I think that I do believe that everyone is having, some kind of even mind, or because mental health is a spectrum, right? Like even when, we are only like mildly stressed, that is also a sign of, our mental health needs to be taken care of for as well. It doesn't mean, depression or anxiety or any kind of like psychological like disorder all the time. It could be, it's a very daily struggle that we are having. So just trying to listen and trying to relate to our own stories, that to make it like easier. And it could, it could start from really like small actions, like having like a authentic and open conversations about, like the struggle that people are going through, that already have so much. Like you don't need to have like expensive, like tool or solution all the time. It could, come from there. And if you need, help in, you need support from expert to step in and, discuss with you and explore with you, what you need to do to, like have a better well-being culture, to be willing to, because I believe that this will be like one of the greatest like investment that a business um could have to really, grow their business, apart from all of the commercial and all of the, like practical side of things as well. It's not like mental health practical, it's as practical as it could be. But yeah, to take the small step
Mm.
and be willing to, accept support and accept help as well. Yes.
Amazing. Amazing. That's so good. I mean, after all, we're human first, right? We're human,
Yes.
we're companies and workplaces and second, but it's tapping into that humanness that we all share in common around the globe. So as we end up here, I've just got one last question for you, Lara. What is your sort of hope, your future hope for Vietnam and for mental health, I guess, around the globe even?
Wow.
Just
That's
that
a big
little one.
question.
Little one to end off with.
Oh, I really hope that there's gonna be a day when, that is something that I hope for Vietnam particularly. Um, because, all around, in especially, in the Western part of the world, like mental health awareness is much better. People can just, easily, tell other people, like, oh, I went into therapy yesterday. It was cool. That is what I learned. It is such a, easy conversations, right? So I
Yeah,
really
North
hope that,
America.
in
Yeah.
2 years,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, in the
Everyone has
next,
a therapist, at least one.
yeah,
You know what I
and
mean?
yeah. So it's just like normalizations. I really do hope that it to become a thing. And actually, for the young generation in Vietnam at the moment, it's been going quite well. I can see that, even though that, sometimes it go into a quite weird way of like people self-diagnosing themselves through content on TikTok and internet. Uh, but like, we need, another hour to talk like like solely on this topic. But I think that is like one of the good side where people are more open to talking about it, right?
Mm.
Um, so just another day, right? Just yesterday. So there's a new social media called Threads. So I'm not sure if everyone knows, but basically, it's like a new social media that is quite similar to X, that is attached to Instagram. And Gen Z, right? The young generations in Vietnam are using them a lot. Uh, and as I, like when I exploring, this new platform, I can see that there's so much of mental health conversations going on. And I feel, and even though like it's a social media, right? So it can go into really dark places, but I still feel happy that now people are just talking about it more, right?
Yeah.
And the young generation is really like they are like the really important agents in bringing all of this under the light and to normalize the conversations. And I do believe, I really have a really high hope that in a few years, all of the mental health conversation is just they are just gonna be normal. And that's and people would not, feel hesitant, or they feel shame, any shame around getting the help that they need anymore. and they can see that, like coaching or counseling would be, like a very integral part of their own development, and well-being as well. Just like, that is like a very big realization that I have for myself. So I just hope that everyone will feel that they deserve to get help, and they deserve to have like a professional to help them. So that's what I hope. Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I love it. So, I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure, Lara, just sharing some of your journey and some of your advice. You've got such great advice and that inspiration for other young professionals that want to follow their dreams and knowing that yes, there's bumps and there's hurdles and you can work on it and go there and build that resilience and have that courage and shift from the back to the front and just keep going. And the time will sort of unfold as and when it needs to. And you don't have to always know exactly how is this working. The connecting the dots, they'll happen. And it's when you look backwards, like today when we were looking at just a little bit about your bio, your journey so far, and you're like, wow, like you've actually done some amazing.
Going everywhere.
It's
Yeah.
been so good, and it's and what an amazing path, and thank you so much for sharing that with us, and maybe we'll
Thank
have
you so much for having me, Jordan. I have an absolutely I have a great time.
yeah,
Jordan, it's not easy, to just share, like spending so much time talking about myself. But yeah, it does really help me, to have a really amazing reflection of my life, and just help me to have more conviction on the path that I'm following as well. So thank you.
Yay, that's brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Laura. And thank you for joining us on the Authentic Living and Loving channel. If you have a story to share that will inspire others, we'd love to hear from you. Until we meet again, I'm Dr. Jordan Alexander, encouraging you to join the UBU revolution. And let's all live a life we don't need a vacation from. Thanks so much.